Hello, welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Fidelia Aguncha. We begin with news of a deadly bomb attack in Mubi, Adamawa State. Police in the state say at least 24 people were killed after a teenage suicide bomber detonated his vest at a mosque in the northeastern state. The explosion occurred at a mosque in Wuruburode near Yangwajo, part of Mubi. Witnesses and residents are, however, putting the death toll at a much higher figure, saying 37 people were killed in the blast. The attack comes less than just a week since the military averted an attempted Boko Haram invasion in Maiduguri. The military is also expected to launch a new operation last hold this week to battle the insurgents. Meanwhile, as part of efforts to solve Nigeria's insecurity problems, President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered the recruitment of 6,000 new police officers. Buhari gave the directive in a special interview session with Voice of America Hausa Service in Washington, United States. The president said that additional security measures were being put in place to check cases of insecurity in Nigeria. Buhari, who is on a working visit to the United States, spoke on calls for the establishment of state police. He says he has reservation on the issue and admitted he was bothered about the financial burdens it may be to state governments. Meanwhile, earlier in his visit to the U.S., President Muhammadu Buhari became the first sub-Saharan African leader to hold bilateral talks with Donald Trump. The meeting, which was held at the White House, focused on issues relating to economy, security, and trade. Both leaders held a press conference later to announce the outcome of the discussion. This next report highlights some of the issues discussed during the meeting.
It is a meeting Nigerians have been expecting since President Donald Trump was sworn in as U.S. President in January 2017. President Muhammadu Buhari becomes the first leader from sub-Saharan Africa to meet with the U.S. leader in White House, Washington. As expected, most part of their meeting focused on security and the fight against terrorism. President Trump noted that he was pleased with Nigeria's progress in that regard.
I especially want to thank President Buhari for Nigeria's partnership and leadership in the fight against terrorism. He's been a real leader. Nigeria was one of the first African nations to join the coalition to defeat ISIS. And Nigerian forces are currently leading regional efforts against ISIS in West Africa and doing very well, as we have. Nigeria is also leading African nations in the fight against Boko Haram and another ruthless jihadist terrorist group. You've been reading about them. They kidnap the young girls and young women, many of whom never are seen again. It's tough stuff.
Buhari, in his response, thanked America for their assistance and solicited their continued support, especially in negotiations to rescue some abducted schoolgirls.
The United States of America has been, to date, the biggest contributor to the humanitarian response, and last year gave approximately $500 million United States dollars in cash and in kind contribution through the United Nations and other intergovernmental organizations. These have mainly supported protection activities, health, food assistance, and shelter. We are doing all we can to secure the release of the remaining abducted school girls from Dapchi and Chibok. In this context, we will continue to welcome United States collaboration in intelligence gathering, hostage negotiations, and information sharing.
The farmers' heritage crisis, which has plagued some parts of the country, was also at the forefront. Trump asked the Nigerian leader to end the killings, which has been blamed on the menace.
We're deeply concerned by religious violence in Nigeria, including the burning of churches and the killing and persecution of Christians. It's a horrible story. We encourage Nigeria and the federal, state, and local leaders to do everything in their power to immediately secure the affected communities and to protect innocent civilians of all faiths, including Muslims and including Christians.
Buhari also highlighted government's efforts to end the crisis.
The government is taking necessary steps to promote the peaceful coexistence of herdsmen and farmers by focusing on boosting security and enforcing legislation that will guarantee borders and farmers access to land.
Another major issue on the agenda during the talks between both presidents is the economy. While President Muhammadu Buhari wants increased investment from America, President Donald Trump says it won't be a problem provided the Nigerian government creates what he calls a level playing ground.
I'm pleased that Nigeria is one of our largest trading partners in the region, and we look forward to growing our trade relationship based on the principle of fairness and reciprocity. But we give Nigeria well over $1 billion in aid every year, and we have already started talking with the President about taking down the trade barriers, very substantial barriers to the United States trading with Nigeria. So we think that we are owed that. President Buhari has also taken several steps to fight corruption and improve the Nigerian business climate. And most of all to me, and again, is ripping down those trade barriers. These measures will make it easier for Nigeria and the United States companies to invest. And we will be investing substantially in Nigeria if they can create that level playing field.
While thanking the U.S. government for assisting Nigeria's attempt to recover its looted funds, President Buhari asked for further assistance in repatriating the remaining stolen funds.
We thank the United States government very much for cooperation we have received in our effort to recover stolen funds. Our two governments have put the machinery in place for their respective attorney generals to collaborate in ensuring the return to Nigeria of over 500 million United States dollars of looted funds siphoned away in banks around the world.
The meeting is seen as one of the first steps to boosting Nigeria's relations with America. It comes months after President Trump allegedly made some derogatory remarks about Africa. It offers Trump an opportunity to put the record straight that Africa matters in his foreign policy.
The May Day is an annual public holiday to celebrate the achievements of workers in Nigeria and many countries around the world. In Nigeria, two of the country's biggest cities, Lagos and Abuja, held different activities to mark the day. In the Federal Capital Territory, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was one of those attending a rally to mark the day. He called on the Nigerian workers to support the federal government's attempt to improve the lives of all workers in the country.
Well, this administration has come this far, always counting on the continued support and goodwill of organized labor. I'm confident that together we will achieve our objective of building a united, strong, and prosperous nation. Thank you all for your attention, and may the Almighty God bless us all and our great country. But before I sit down, all over the world today, we are celebrating labor, and we are celebrating the nation state that provides the opportunity for all labor. And everywhere you go, anywhere in the world today, you will hear people hailing labor in their own traditional ways. So we are also going to hail labor in our own traditional way.
Despite the enormous contribution of Nigerian workers and the labor movement to national development, the issue of improved condition of service, standard of living, and welfare has always been true demand and struggle. From the first minimum wage struggle of 125 naira, which was then equivalent to $200 in 1981, to the current minimum wage of 18,000, Nigerian workers always have been forced to bargain so hard, wait for too long, and at the end of the day, make to endure with very little returns that tend to mock their inputs to national development.
The country's unemployment rate rose to 18.8% in the third quarter of 2017, from 13.9% recorded in the third quarter of 2016, making it the highest jobless rate since 2009. This confirms that many businesses have shut down between the last quarter of 2017 and the first quarter of 2018 due to the government policies and other factors. To address our socio-economic challenges, the federal government must see the issue of electricity as a priority. The future still looks bleak and gloomy. The investors have failed in most of their undertakings so far and are even twisting the government to cover up their failures.
Meanwhile, in Lagos, Nigerian workers on Tuesday defied the scorching heat and joined other workers in the rest of the country to celebrate this year's event at the Agege Stadium. Dozens of affiliates of the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress marched round the stadium before the Lagos State Governor, Akinwumi Ambode. In his speech, Ambode said his administration remains passionate in improving welfare of workers in the state, while also imploring the labor movement to support the government in making a difference. Also present at the event was the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, represented by Nnamdi Enual. Ngige said the federal government is irrevocably committed to delivering and improving the welfare of workers across the country.
Today's event marks the 3rd anniversary of our government's celebration of Workers' Day in this state. I can say with all confidence that our chief development and growth partners since May 29, 2015 have been the hardworking, understanding, and cooperative workers in both the public and private sectors of this state. It therefore gives me exceptional joy to join in the celebration of this year's Workers' Day. You will note that I have referred to workers in Lagos State as my development and growth partners. I make this statement deliberately, as our administration has recently embarked on a drive to promote the growth mindset campaign and initiative throughout the Lagos State Public Service. I therefore call on all of you to support this campaign, as it will result in the exponential growth and productivity of our public service.
It is on record that the social partners of which the labor movement is a part have been part of the success story in the economic growth and development of the nation. Indeed, the contribution of Nigerian workers by way of tax to the national economy remains unparalleled. In fact, the Federation of Trade Unions lead the struggle to achieve enhanced national minimum wage, which increases the workers' take-home pay and stimulates growth in the economy.
The Joint Health Sector Union's Johesu has described as untrue a claim by the Nigerian government that it has implemented all except one demand of the union, which prompted its ongoing strike action. Johesu, a union comprising all health workers in Nigeria apart from medical doctors and dentists, have been on an indefinite strike action for almost 2 weeks now, crippling healthcare delivery across federal institutions. The association had called for the nationwide strike last September. Now, some of its major demands then include salary adjustments, payment of promotion arrears, and improved work environment for its members. On Sunday, the Minister of Health, Isaac Adewale, said Johesu had presented a 15-point demand last September and that the government has implemented 14 out of that 15 demand, but the body insists this is not the case. The Nigerian government has described as unlawful the processes that resulted in the Senate's suspension of Delta State Senator Ovie Omoagege. Omoagege was suspended for describing the Senate's decision to amend the Electoral Act as a plot against President Muhammadu Buhari. The Delta senator apologized for his comments, but was suspended anyway for 90 legislative days for taking the matter to court. Speaking during Monday's court proceedings on the application filed by Omoagege, Nigeria Solicitor General Dayo Akpata asked the court to regard the processes preceding the suspension as unlawful. Up next is business news coming up after the break. Stay with us.
$100,000 people to get only 10 people to register to vote, 10 new voters. Each of us standing here today, when you get back home, when you get to your place of work, your school, try and get 10 new people that do not have their PPC to register to vote. We're going to take on our website onevoice.ng. Please go there, give us the information. If you get 10 people to vote, then you're amongst us.
So at least start with your voter's card and begin to use that to bargain about the type of person you want to see on February 16, 2019 and March 2nd on the ballot paper.
So we want to focus on people who haven't voted before. It's 100,000 people who are looking to pledge that because that gives us a minimum of 1 million new voters.
Instead of to say, my vote no go count now, try vote first so you see whether it will count, you know.
Hello and welcome to Business News. I am Esther Vese. The Federal Ministry of Health has directed the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, to ban with immediate effect further issuance of permits for the importation of codeine as an active pharmaceutical ingredient for cough preparations. The Minister of Health, Isaac Adewale, made this known in a statement on Tuesday. He said the directive became necessary due to the gross abuse codeine usage has been subjected to in the country, especially in the northern part of Nigeria. In its stead, the minister said cough syrup containing codeine should be replaced with dextromethorphan, which is less addictive. Now, the federal government has declared its determination to reinvigorate efforts aimed at tackling the financing of terrorism. It expressed the administration's commitment to fight against terrorism by cutting off funding of terror activities. The Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, who represented President Muhammadu Buhari at the International Conference Against the Financing of Terrorism, which held in Paris, said the country was reinvigorating efforts to tackle the financing of terrorism. Between July 2016 and April this year, the Federal Inland Revenue Service generated a total revenue of 9.76 billion naira. That's through the state offices of the Accountant General platform. The executive chairman of the FIRS, Babatunde Fowler, gave the figure during a presentation made by members of the Federation Account Allocation Committee at their meeting, which was held to approve statutory allocation to the 3 tiers of government. The SAG platform is a web-based solution designed to collect value-added tax, withholding tax, and stamp duties as sourced from all state vendors. It was made available to the state through the Accountant General's office on July 1, 2016. Today, oil prices held steady as the dollar remained near a 4-month high, with crude supported by worries that US President Donald Trump may pull out of the Iran nuclear deal. Trump has given Britain, France, and Germany a deadline which extends to May 12 to fix what he views as the deal's flaws, or he will reimpose sanctions on Iran. As a result, Brent crude went up 1 cent at $74.70 per barrel, while US crude was up 2 cents at $68.59 a barrel. That's Business News. We'll be back shortly. Do stay with us.
Not in my country.
Madam, madam, welcome. Okay, madam, no worry. When you deliver the balance, we'll give you the goods.
No problem, no problem. All right, so now well done.
Thank you. Hey, Oga. I still say she don't bring money. Maybe we'll use this one for her now. She wants mahogany, not white wood.
Oga, our work now to join wood together, deliver whatever to customer. Put the remaining profit for pocket.
Abba, this is corruption, not in my country. Corruption, not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Welcome back. Imprisoned former Brazilian President Luiz Lula da Silva, along with the current leader of the Workers' Party he founded, have been hit with fresh corruption charges by federal prosecutors. Authorities allege that Lula, along with Senator Gleisi Hoffmann, who is leading the beleaguered Workers' Party, were given access to a $40 million slush fund in 2010 funded by a construction company in exchange for government decision that would benefit the business. Lula was jailed on April 7 and is serving a 12-year sentence for a bribery conviction. The former leader already faces another 6 separate trials on graft charges. The U.S. State Department on Tuesday denounced recent political violence in Burundi ahead of the country's May 17 referendum to amend its constitution and expressed concerns that the votes to extend its president's term in office could hurt its democratic institutions. It comes after Burundi court sentenced an official of the country's ruling party to 3 years in jail for pushing to have opponents of the referendum thrown into a lake. Nearly 430,000 people, including opposition politicians, have fled the East African nation of 10.5 million people since President Pierre Nkurunziza won a third term in a 2015 election that led to violent clashes. Moving on to sports now, Nigeria Football Federation is to be given a $2 million advance pay by FIFA towards preparations of the Super Eagles for the Russia 2018 World Cup next month. The World Football Body will also give other 4 African football federations a $2 million advance each to pay players bonuses before the tournament. The Confederation of African Football says agreement for Egypt, Morocco, Nigeria, Senegal, and Tunisia will help settle beforehand the question of bonuses. The 32 federations sending teams to the World Cup get $1.5 million each from FIFA to prepare, plus at least $8 million in prize money after the tournament, and the winner gets $38 million. Liverpool star Mohamed Salah has been named as the Football Writers Association Footballer of the Year for 2017 and 2018 after scoring 43 goals so far in an incredible debut season for Liverpool. Salah topped the poll of the 400-strong FWA membership ahead of Manchester City midfielder Kevin De Bruyne, while Tottenham striker Harry Kane was third. Salah has scored 43 goals in 48 appearances in all competitions this season and spearheaded Liverpool's push towards a potential place in the Champions League final. The Egyptian, who was last month crowned the Premier League Player of the Year, becomes the first African winner of the FWA accolade, which has been awarded since 1948. Zinedine Zidane says his future as Real Madrid coach does not depend on winning the Champions League this season. The Frenchman has delivered the European titles in his first 2 seasons to make the Spanish side the first ever to win the competition consecutively in its current format. Madrid are just 1 game from reaching another Champions League final as they hold a 2-1 lead over Bayern Munich, heading into the second leg of their semi-final on Tuesday, but their domestic struggles have led to speculation surrounding Zinedine's future. However, Zidane insists he will not be sacked if he fails to extend their reign as kings of Europe. Well, that is on News Now. You can watch some of our other programs on our website at www.tv360nigeria.com. Watch us on Facebook at facebook.com/TV360online. You can also follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/TV360Nigeria. And we are also live on YouTube and Google Plus at TV360 Nigeria. I am Fidelia Aguncha. Thanks for watching.